morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take on this beautiful post-Falcons victory Friday morning. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today, I'm joined by two very special guests, my good friends, Matt Babich and Seth Diewold, the hosts of the incredible Dynasty Roundtable, and plenty more. These guys are going to give some great advice on what we've learned so far from the season and what the hell is going on. So go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Fellas, how is it going? I'll throw it to you, Seth. How you doing?
Oh, great. Today is a great day. I love your pumpkin. Very festive there, Jason, with the mug. This is not festive at all. I'm being boring today, but this is just I don't even know what kind of design that is. It's just whoever designed this was just like, let's just throw some, I don't even know, Celtic trees in here. It's not even a thing, but I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We'll get into Darnell Mooney a little bit later. I mean, we'll get into it. I tried to tell people, and people were just saying, "Oh, Darnell Mooney sucks." Well, I don't know. He might lead the Falcons in receiving yards or something. I don't know. Yeah.
The first couple weeks of the season, Seth kept saying like, "Oh, I didn't think Mooney was going to be this good, but I did tell you to go out and get him." And now he's just dropped that whole. And he's just like, "Nope, this is how I've been." The situation all along. I was always on Darnell Mooney being the wide receiver one for the Falcons.
Yeah. I'm walking in like George Costanza after he has that big stock win. He's like, can I get you something? Can I get you something? Like smoking that cigar, and then taking the tip back from the waitress. Like, how much did I give you? Anyway. Yeah, it's a great day to be alive. Darnell Mooney, baby.
Yeah, let's go. We'll definitely let you victory lap Darnell Mooney some more. Matt, how you doing this morning?
Doing great. Nice to take, a little 30 minutes out of my time in corporate America and spend it, thinking about fantasy football, which is, sometimes what I do anyway.
It's probably most of your shift, right?
Happy to be on a live edition of Wake and Take. It's the first time I've ever been able to make one live, so I'm excited.
Yeah, this is true. You've guest hosted a few times, a little pre-recorded episode. Always done a fantastic job. You as well, Seth. Anytime you guys are on. It's a great show. So I'm happy to be here live with you guys, chopping it up together. You guys had me on the roundtable, was it 2 weeks ago now? Had a fantastic episode. A lot of it's still relevant, so I would like to throw you guys, if you're listening now and starting to feel the vibes from this trio, go check out that episode over on Seth's YouTube channel, Seth Diewold on YouTube. There's a great roundtable episode with us, as well as plenty other great fantasy football content that Seth is putting out. Guys, before we get into just kind of takeaways from the season, I want one takeaway from the game. Last night, Seth, it sounds like it's Darnell Mooney. Just go for it. What do you have to say?
Well, I mean, I've already kind of victory lapped Darnell Mooney. I will admit to you that if you would have told me that he's leading the Falcons in receiving yards at this point, I would have said, wow, looks like life's going to be pretty good for me, but I don't believe you if that's the case. But I'll say this. I do think better days are ahead for Bijan Robinson. I know a lot of people are panicking. So that was my takeaway. It just really looked like, for whatever reason, the Buccaneers were keying on the run, and that those long zone runs are just not popping right now. But as far as his usage, I know Tyler Allgeier's getting some work too in the rushing game. But as far as like receiving work out of the backfield, like it doesn't quite add up. Like the usage versus like the fantasy production. So I think if you can, it may not be possible, I don't know, in your league, but if you can, I would go test the waters to see if I can get some Bijan Robinson. I'm going to do that, for sure this week after that performance to see. Like I said, it might not be possible, but like I would just say, let's not freak out about Bijan. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I made a TikTok this morning saying not to panic on Bijan Robinson, and I'm actually getting a lot of hate. All the comments right now are like, oh, it's been bad. And I think that it exactly shows why you just should not panic on Bijan Robinson. Because if the bad offers I'm getting on my Bijan Robinson shares in Dynasty are any indicator, you could get him for pretty cheap right now. And I mean, he hasn't had a game under 10 points yet in PPR. Like, he's still performing fine. He hasn't had that 20, 30-pointer yet. But who cares? He has 2 16-pointers. He has 2 games with over an 80% snap share, has multiple 100-yard games, has had the touchdown, is top 5 in receptions, is top 5 in yards created. Like, it's still Bijan Robinson, guys. And I know Tyler Algier looks really good right now. But last night, I mean, Bijan was playing through a hamstring strain, right? Like, on a short week. Like, so, like, just give this guy a break. Let the season play out. Clearly, the Falcons started off slow. And then Kirk Cousins just explodes for 500 yards. I think things are going to be okay in Atlanta. Don't panic with Bijan Robinson right now, for sure. That's a really good takeaway. Matt, what are you thinking?
Yeah, just to echo that sentiment, we really shouldn't have expected Bijan to go ballistic today. I don't really think any, sane Bijan Robinson managers that were following the situation did. I think where the perception gets skewed is that he was very active for the first little bit of the game. And then as the game wore on, started becoming more and more Algier, regardless of, the success that they were having on offense. Mm-hmm. And, I had even some of my friends be like, where's Bijan? And I'm like, the Falcons are running like 80 to 90 plays today. Like, I don't think anyone in Atlanta necessarily thought that that's the way this game was going to go. Just fast-paced scoring on both sides to where, Kirk's thrown 52 times. Bijan himself had 12 carries. Algier had some. So, I mean, they were playing with such a fast pace and having so many plays that eventually it probably just got to the point where they're like, look, Algier's fresh. Let's just keep rolling with him. Like, we're not really running that much anyway. We're playing from behind. So I don't think it was that big of a deal. That's kind of what I was expecting. If you would have told me going into last night that the Falcons would run like 70 plays and Kirk would throw 50-something times, I'd probably tell you that Bijan didn't have a great game and probably didn't even play as much as we would have expected to. That being said, he was still one broken tackle away from putting out like a 30-yard rushing touchdown. So It's like 3 or 4 weeks straight now that Bijan's had one of these big plays, a scoring play that just hasn't quite happened. And so it's going to happen eventually for Bijan Robinson. My biggest takeaway, I think, is that I think you got to stash. I think you have to roster Ray McCloud.
Yeah.
Like he's becoming a near weekly flex option, and he's now like a Jawan Jennings one injury away from like a 12 target. And he looks pretty good out there. The way they're schemed, they're getting him in a lot of motion, a lot of horizontal breaking routes, getting him into open space. He had a couple of drops and some tough targets yesterday, but Ray McCloud's a guy who, if you're in a deep league, like you should be keeping an eye on him. Especially, with Drake London getting popped in the ribs a couple of times, like he's taken some big hits. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to go around here, and it seems like it might be a 3-headed monster in terms of the receivers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone's kind of getting involved. We finally have Pitts get more than like 4 targets, which was awesome. Hopefully that continues. But everyone's getting involved. I mean, Kadarius Hodge looked like Jamar Chase last night. I mean, it's honestly, it was a really fun game from all sorts of pieces on that Falcons offense. But in Tampa too, I mean, like Baker Mayfield completely rejuvenated, just absolutely slinging it. I thought that this was going to be a game that he would come back to earth a little bit because the Falcons defense had been pretty stingy so far this season. But I mean, he still goes out there. Mike Evans just always destroys the Falcons. I don't know what it is, but that obviously helps. But still, even finding Sterling Shepard for a touchdown. I mean, it's just everything is clicking for that team as well. NFC South, at least those two teams and a little bit of the Saints looking good right now. In a really fun game last night. Those are some good takeaways, guys. I want to ask one more thing, too. Just kind of rumor season going on right now with Davante Adams. Not where do you think he'll end up, but where do you want him to end up, Seth?
I'm kind of torn on this because I want him to end up with the Chiefs for selfish reasons because I think that's going to help their three-peat chances, and I don't know if my Bears have much of a chance at a deep playoff run, especially with the state of the NFC North. Yeah. So I do kind of want him to end up with the Chiefs, but I think potentially, and now hear me out here, the best outcome for fantasy might be the Jets. And I know that sounds crazy.
What?
But look at all the targets Alan Lazard's getting right now. Like, it would completely kill Alan Lazard. He has a connection with Aaron Rodgers that's well documented. And like that would be really shitty for Garrett Wilson too, I think. Yeah. But like for Davante Adams, like in that connection with Aaron Rodgers and an offense right now and a team that's completely desperate, it feels like it makes too much sense. So for fantasy, the Jets, I think the Chiefs would be good for fantasy too, don't get me wrong. So either one of those options I think would be good for fantasy, although it might hurt Kelsey and Worthy a little bit. So, that's kind of why I'm torn, because I have some Kelsey and some Worthy. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Davante Adams. But such a weird situation with the Raiders. It seems like the Raiders just can't do, much right, if anything. But I will say, this is really good if you stash Trey Tucker in Dynasty. So there you go.
Yeah. Trey Tucker. We're out there. Matt, what are you thinking of the situation?
I don't want him to go really anywhere where I was drafting an alpha, like in the offseason. Like, I don't want him to go to the Jets. I mean, I don't really have many. I have one Garrett Wilson redraft team, but I don't want him to go to the Jets because I invested Garrett Wilson in best ball. And there's sometimes these situations where I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't really want him to be traded.
Yeah.
Like, I went into this season and, like most people, I didn't sit here saying like, oh, I'm going to draft my teams thinking that Davante Adams is going to get traded. Like, we very rarely do that sort of thing in fantasy football. And so I really don't want him to go anywhere, because name a situation that he would go to that wouldn't wreck somebody that's currently doing us a lot of favors in fantasy football, or we're hoping to turn their game around. Garrett Wilson, I don't think that's a death blow to Garrett Wilson. I would, if Davante Adams gets traded to the Jets, my early hot take is that Garrett Wilson does not crack the top 32 receivers in fantasy points per game, just because that offense is going slow. And let's be honest, Davante's probably going to turn into the number one target. Maybe Buffalo. I know they're kind of on the outskirts of the sweepstakes. They're the one team where it's like, okay, it's a wide open target share. Kincaid, Shakir individually, there's outcomes where they don't get impacted too much by Davante Adams. And having Josh Allen with a true alpha is a lot of fun to watch. We saw what he did with Diggs. It's a very explosive offense. Look, my viewpoint, I said this about the Packers. If you don't have a true number one, if you can't consolidate your target share when it really matters and just have guys that you can feed over and over again, I don't think you can win a Super Bowl. I think it's going to be very tough for the Bills to win a Super Bowl with their receiving core. Teams are gonna figure out how to defend them. We saw what happened with Baltimore. Like, that's the case for them to get just trounced in the playoffs. So I personally, if I want him to go anywhere, I want him to go to Buffalo.
That's a good call. I'm looking at the Vegas odds right now. Jets clear favorite at -110. Then the Saints, Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys, Raiders, Chiefs, Niners, Bills, Ravens. I mean, none of those are awful. I mean, besides the Jets. I'm not going to lie, Seth. I really don't want him to go to the Jets. I'm with Matt there. Yeah. I really do think he would kill Garrett Wilson, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Allen Lazard out-targeted Garrett Wilson if Davante Adams went to the Jets. Like, it would just turn into the old Packers.
So stupid. Like, it's just the Aaron Rodgers freaking, party club there. Like, if you're not in the clique, you don't get targets. That's the way it is with that. I mean, idiot. Oh,
might as well go get Mercedes Lewis, maybe Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson.
See if James Jones is available. God damn it!
What Donald
so stupid. Jordy. Yeah, you said Jordy Nelson. Like, it's so stupid. Antonio Freeman. Well, that would be going way back to Brett Favre. That's way too far back. But I'm gonna throw
another wild card out there, also in division. I like any of the divisional ones. I've seen people talk Broncos. I've seen people talk Chiefs. I'm not going to throw the Chargers into the mix. I'm just going to randomly throw the Chargers into the mix. It crossed my head just now when Matt was talking about where there's not really a true alpha. I think he could be a fun fit there with the GM connection, the former GM connection. Maybe they could work something out. I don't know, but I think the Chiefs in general. If you were to ask me my opinion, I think the Chiefs will pull it off in some way. I think that's the clearest replacement for Rashee Rice that's available right now. But we'll see. It's an interesting situation, and hopefully it doesn't destroy any of your fantasy teams. Now, we've got the rest of the season coming up, and I kind of wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about what we've kind of learned so far. So I'll throw it to you, Seth, first. What's a take from the offseason that you're feeling good about? Not Darnell Mooney.
Oh, okay.
Or you could say Darnell Mooney. I don't care.
No, that's fine. Well, since Jason threw me for that loop, I literally have written down here Darnell Mooney was my number one dynasty buy, and people mocked me for it.
There
So,
you go.
like, I got so much like you remember the pass where Darnell Mooney like it hit him in the belly, and he was laying on the ground with the ball in his belly in the end zone, and somehow he dropped the pass. Yeah, people were sending me that video clip going, "This guy can't catch. He sucks." And I was just saying, well, it wasn't that long ago. He had 140 targets in this offense, and I know there wasn't much competition, but he was recruited by Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Anyway, um, so the take I'm feeling good about. Wow, I mean, honestly, nothing's really coming to mind outside of Darnell Mooney. That's how weird this fantasy football season's been.
Yeah.
But like I still think DJ Moore, like I was very bullish on DJ Moore, and I'm still bullish on DJ Moore. The Bears offense is in flux right now. I've watched all 22 tape. I'm not gonna lie, the offense is very disheveled, and I think that's in large reason because of Shane Waldron. Some of his schemes, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. The option play on fourth down is like, what are you doing to the side where all the defenders are? Anyway, but I do think the Bears are going to get it figured out at some point. I do think this offense is going to click. They're going to be in catch-up mode against the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions, none of which they've played yet. Yeah. So this is not me being a homer. It's me believing in the talent of DJ Moore and Caleb Williams to say that was my take before the season, that I thought DJ Moore was going to be really good. I still think he's going to be really good, and ergo, he's a dynasty buy for me.
Yeah, I mean, the last time you were on, we talked about the Bears. It was kind of in the midst of that Hard Knock season, and we talked about how we really think that there's a path for everyone on this offense if they get clicking to be really good. Start going down from DeAndre Swift to Keenan Allen, right? Like everyone kind of has a piece here. Now we're seeing Roschon Johnson show some signs of life. Caleb Williams getting the passing yards. Roma Dunze has had the ceiling game. It's all coming together. Even Cole Kmet is rising up dynasty ranks. Like it really is all coming together slowly but surely in Chicago. So I'm excited to see that pan out. Matt, what are you feeling good about so far from this offseason?
So similarly to Seth, I put out one of my biggest buys was a receiver that now, granted, it was not as much of a sicko call as Seth's was, but Deontay Johnson became an industry consensus buy about 3 to 4 months after I had been talking about him endlessly on essentially any podcast that I appeared on, trying to get a little better at tweeting some of these things out so I can have more accessible receipts. But I have like really bad luck, and like I have it in my head where it's like if I tweet something out, done, not going to happen. So like I just avoided doing that altogether, and so I get just podcast receipts. But Deontay Johnson, I said he was going to be a top. My bold call was that he was a top 16 receiver in fantasy points per game in the year 2024. Now that was off. If we would have been on here 2 weeks ago, this would have been my answer for the next question. But Andy Dalton has come in to save the day over the last couple of weeks. And what has happened in these next 2 weeks, regardless of whether he ends up being a top 16, right now there are some trade rumors which are scaring me a little bit. But that was the thesis behind my play. I mean, you look at the past 2 weeks, he has drawn 27 targets, 15 receptions, a TD in both games for 205 receiving yards. And that is on over 280 air yards. So Andy Dalton is targeting him deep down the field. He has a good ADOT. I've seen a lot of film clips pop up. I mean, he's making defenders look silly. There was a play in week 3 where Deontay Johnson was still adjusting his glove and putting his glove on during the snap and still managed to just absolutely cook his defender for a 22-yard gain. So, I mean, everything about Deontay Johnson that I was preaching in the offseason, it's coming into fruition right now. A 90% route participation, over 80% snap share. He is just completely dominating. He is the one in Carolina. And as long as he's there, he is going to be a top 12 play probably at this rate every single week. I'm just praying that he stays in Carolina. And if by some reason he does get traded, which I know Adam Schefter said that Deontay Johnson was going to be one and done. I just want to report, I don't really think Adam knows what he's talking about in this case. I think this is the year where Adam Schefter goes on a headline tour. I have no data to back this up. I'm not the coach speak guy who thinks he knows everything about what people actually mean when they say it. But something about this time of year is where I feel like every aggregator is just saying whatever comes their way because it's a fight to like it. Now. Before it's easy to make headlines. Now it's harder to make headlines. If 1 year playing under Dave Canales as his number one, I guarantee you Deontay Johnson's mind has changed. Maybe he was a one and done earlier in the off season. I don't think that's the case now. Seeing what he could be in that offense with a different quarterback. Exactly. Robert Kelly in the chat. He says he wants out, but the bag never lies. I'm telling you right now, the Carolina Panthers are giving him the bag. And you look at the free agents for next year. Why wouldn't Carolina make a big push for Deontay Johnson? He's going to be one of the cheaper options, and he's one of the younger options. I think Dave Canales is going to fight to extend him like the Buccaneers fought for Mike Evans this offseason. They're going to get him a quarterback. Casey is not trading for Deontay Johnson. I will put that in writing. I'll make a bet if anyone wants to. It's really fun to project them to trade for a receiver until you just think of the logistics of it. Like they're gonna, maybe they could sign him next year. I don't think they're gonna trade for him. I'm more concerned about this year. Like his fantasy value, I think, is going to be fine going forward as teams get shaken up in the preseason. My worry is that he gets traded midseason, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those rumors like last year with Jerry Jeudy, for example. Like maybe there's some smoke to it, but I don't think there's actually anything's really going to come of it. Just sounds like a rumor mill right now. The two that seem like they're actually going to get traded maybe would be Amari Cooper if the Browns lose again this week, and Devontae Adams, the way things are trending. But I think Deontay Johnson's safe in Carolina, to your point. They need a receiver like him. They have the money.
This is the best spot for Deontay Johnson to get his bag next year.
Yeah. I'm feeling the extension. I'm going to go ahead and call it 2 here on Wake and Take. Deontay Johnson gets a 4-year extension in Carolina at the end of the season to make Matt Babich happy. Ooh. There we go. $18 million a year. So it's not going to be great, but not bad either. I already see it. Now, where are you feeling? I'll throw it back to you, Matt. Where are you kind of feeling a little bit of worry about some of your positions heading into the season?
So a big take. There's so many, honestly, the way the season's going.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little flurry of them. Like I was a elite tight end guy this offseason. That is obviously not really playing out right now. I was buying into the Dalton Kincaids, the Kyle Pittses, who did have a good game last week. I even thought Mark Andrews was a really good value at cost, and holy crap, is that turning out badly? Something that maybe not everybody got wrong is that I think I ended up way too overexposed on Jamar Chase and way too underexposed on Justin Jefferson. So that's where my biggest concern is right now, is the fact that I kind of put too many eggs in that basket going for the Jamar Chase wide receiver one. I'm done being bamboozled and hoodwinked and run amok and led astray by the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, all off season long, I was hearing this is going to be the Jamar Chase role we've been waiting for. He's going to be in the slot all the time. They're going to be moving around in motion. And I mean, for 4 weeks, even though we've seen some big games from him, this has been one of the most bland offenses I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're feeding T. Higgins more often than Jamar Chase. Look, I know that Eric All might be a little bit reliable as a tight end, but 4 targets in straight games. Like, what are we doing? Like, he's not that good. Why is Jamar Chase not getting the Deontay Johnson treatment? Why is he not getting the Drake London treatment, the AJ Brown treatment, the Justin Jefferson treatment? All these treatments we see number one receivers getting, and I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's an organizational issue. Zach Taylor, fraud of a head coach, needs to be fired. I guess my take here is I don't think Cincinnati's good until they completely fix their organizational structure. We know the talent. They went to the Super Bowl, but that was because they got carried on a defense that overperformed a team that was very cheap because of rookie contracts, not because of Zach Taylor, the head coach, probably because of Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, who has Atlanta looking like a really good offense right now. And so you lose the actual genius behind the operation, and now you have Zach Taylor just drawing squiggly lines and trying to fit circles into squares. And just nothing he's doing is working, and I'm just afraid that Jamar Chase is going to be pretty mid for, he'll have his big games, but he's going to be pretty disappointing because the floor is going to be a lot lower than we were expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand being disappointed in Chase. I'm still holding out hope. We talked about this on the roundtable briefly, I believe. You too. I'm a Chase stan. I can't give up on that player. I really do believe in him. And I think that he did start to show some life. He did have an interview on Sunday saying he's starting to have fun again. And I take that as, he's just ready to play ball. Like he's been thinking too much about the business side of things. And hopefully that translates onto the field. I mean, we saw the breakaway play. He has a great matchup this week against the Ravens. So feeling the Jamar Chase week. I really hope he gets back on track because I'm like you. I took a lot of Jamar Chase, took a lot of Justin Jefferson. Good news, though, Matt. That did mean that we avoided Tyreek Hill. That does mean that we avoided Christian McCaffrey. We'll see what it means in terms of the CD Lamb kind of disparity. But
I don't know if avoiding Tyreek Hill is a good thing yet.
Okay.
If Tua is actually coming back week 8, that's what I'll say.
That's fair. I mean, still, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I think that Justin Jefferson in particular on pace for a really good season.
Justin Jefferson was the value of the season for the first round.
For sure.
Typical.
Now, Seth, where's your worry at? What are you feeling right now?
I think I have to address the Garrett Wilson situation here live on the air. So wasn't our biggest complaint last year with Garrett Wilson was, he doesn't have a quarterback. The quarterback plays terrible. The offensive line plays terrible. Sometimes, I know this might be a cliche, but the play calling might have been terrible. Okay, so last year, his catchable target rate, Garrett Wilson's, 67%. So 67% of his passes were deemed catchable by the Player Profiler staff, the great charters over at Player Profiler who do a fantastic job. Unsung heroes of the website. This year, somehow, with this, amazing, just all-knowing savant of a quarterback, the best, one of the best quarterback minds we've ever seen, Aaron Rodgers, surely, it will be better. Actually, it's worse. 64% catchable target rate this year for Garrett Wilson. And the play calling and the utilization of Garrett Wilson is bad. The yards per route run is an abysmal number 68 amongst wide receivers. I don't understand why they're not getting him the ball down the field. He's number 9 in targets still. So, one of these two things has to be true, right? Either the Jets just can't figure out how to get Garrett Wilson involved in the offense, or Aaron Rodgers just isn't good anymore, or Garrett Wilson isn't very good anymore. And what I'm hearing a lot of primarily is, Garrett Wilson sucks. He's overrated. It's what do you think's more possible? Maybe, just maybe, a 41-year-old is over the hill and Nathaniel Hackett doesn't know what he's doing, and neither does Robert Saleh, because it really looks like that to me right now. And it looks like Garrett Wilson is one of the more screaming dynasty buys. I get it. It's been 2 years. We got the Kyle Pitts factor here. It's been 2 years, so people are hurt and offended and shocked. But Garrett Wilson is a dynasty buy because somehow his situation is worse than last year, and I didn't think that was possible with Aaron Rodgers. I didn't think Aaron Rodgers would be this bad, but it's this bad so far.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson for me was a player I avoided, but not because I don't think he's good, but I have a weird thing where I don't like very good players in the first and second round. I would rather just take the Saquons. I would rather, I don't know, the Jahmyr Gibbs or something, as opposed to just a wide receiver that's a lock for exactly 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think that makes Garrett Wilson an awesome dynasty asset, to your point. But I do think we do, as a fantasy community, need to have a little bit of a discussion between, is this a player that is literally possible to get 1,600 yards, double-digit touchdowns every single season? Or is he just a really, really good wide receiver? And there's nothing wrong with being really, really good, but there is a difference between being that and great. And I am curious to see kind of just how his career trajectory goes, because Chris Olave, same profile, kind of in the same boat, a lot of the same thing. It's a very interesting archetype between those two. And I think that we're going to learn a big lesson in fantasy football as their careers continue to play out in terms of projecting the type of production that we could get from those players. Now, Let's go ahead and just move ahead to the week. We've talked a good bit about the season. What player are you keeping a close eye on this week? They maybe have been underperforming so far this season or overperforming, and you want to see if it will continue. Seth, who are you watching with big eyes this week?
Well, I would say these tight ends, this at some point, something has to give with these tight ends. And last week on the surface, you go, oh my God, 8 targets for Kyle Pitts. We're like, dying of thirst in the desert, trying to get production out of these tight ends. But then you look at the box score and you watch the game and you go, oh my God, Ray McLeod out-targeted him. That's not good. Yeah. So even with the success of last night, if you started him, hopefully you didn't put Tucker Kraft over him. But yeah, I mean, I think something's got to give here with Dalton Kincaid and Trey McBride. I mean, Trey McBride especially, because when he's played, his snap share has been over 80%. The Bills have been playing these weird games where they're just kicking the shit out of teams or they're just getting destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens. And his snap share has been all over the place, like 42% one game against the Dolphins because they didn't need him, 55% the next game, and then 64% against the Ravens. I have to imagine that's going to go up. Mm-hmm. So, it might be a cliche at this point, but if somebody is panicking with these tight ends, I'm disappointed, but I'm not unimpressed by what their value is in Dynasty. So I'm still buying, the Kincaids, the McBrides, the Kyle Pitts. I know, guys, Kyle Pitts, but I'm still buying them.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Even Mark Andrews. I'm especially buying Mark Andrews right now. I know that's kind of the consensus to get away from him. But, I mean, I had a chat yesterday. Would you trade Tucker Kraft for Mark Andrews? I would do that a million times. I think I would break my finger pressing accept on that button. And the fact that that's even possible, Tucker Kraft is ahead of Mark Andrews on Keep Drink Up right now. It is a ridiculous world we are living in terms of the elite tight ends. You can get them. You really can. Matt, who are you keeping a close eye on this week?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Andrews is definitely one of the big ones here. It's just kind of crazy to see where we've gotten with him, but I know it's only going to be kind of temporary, but we got, week 8 is the, pseudo projected return point for Tua Tagovailoa. We got 3 weeks in between that. I don't know can't remember if the Dolphins have a bye, but I'm going to go down with the ship. I went viral for my Tyler Huntley take, my shitty Tyler Huntley take. And you know what I'm going to do? Because I'm just batshit crazy. I'm going to double down. I actually saw things that could really be built upon from that game. He had a couple of really bad overthrows, but this was the coaching malpractice, which is why would you throw away 2 games? You could have thrown away 1 game against Seattle and just thrown Huntley into the wolves. The Josh Dobbs, he doesn't even know these guys' names.
Yeah.
You could have just thrown away that game and had that been his practice game. But instead, you decided to throw away that game with Skylar Thompson and then throw away a very winnable game against Tennessee, I think, with some game snaps and then the full week of practice to build upon what went wrong, get a little feel for it in the beginning. He would have looked much better against Tennessee. And he didn't look good really at all. But in the fourth quarter, the offense started moving a little bit. He found Jalen Waddle for a 20-yard gain right before he ran it in for a touchdown. And that drive where they scored, that's when I was like, ooh. If he hits Tyreek Hill on just one of those deep balls, You could tell the game was moving really fast, but it also did seem to start slowing down. A lot of these routes are timing routes, and McDaniel has a very specific offense that's tailored to Tua, very, very reliant on timing and connections. And so and Harry Snowman nailed it right there in the chat. That's timing, not talent. He overthrew him. So, right, he has the arm strength to get it there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm watching that game pretty closely. So even if Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle don't necessarily explode, they're playing the Patriots, who have a very sorry defense that continues to become injured. We're going to have Christian Gonzalez versus Tyreek Hill, which is why not only am I keeping an eye on Huntley, I'm starting Jalen Waddle this week. I'm sorry. In deep leagues, in smaller standard ESPN leagues, I doubt your team is going to be in a spot where you're going to want to play Waddle, but I'm in some deeper redraft leagues with multiple flexes, 2 to 3 wide receivers that you're starting. And I'm looking at Waddle versus Zay Flowers. And I think a sicko start could be benching Zay Flowers for maybe some sick, a sicko guy like Jalen Waddle. I could see him, putting up a 40-yard touchdown reception against the Pats.
Yeah, I love that call a lot, actually. We started doing a starter sit show on Wake and Take Sunday mornings. I just do my top starter sit by position. And spoiler alert, everyone, I've started putting it together. I am going to say must start Devon Achane this week against the Patriots. And my argument was going to be what you've laid out. I think that this Dolphins offense is trending in the right direction. And it just takes one play for any one of these players, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane. And the Patriots defense is the exact type of one to give that up right now. And I think that things could click in this one. Yeah, that's a good call. I like that a lot. Now, who's someone you're starting or sitting, Seth, that you've got to start them or you have to bench them, no questions asked?
I am not afraid if you are dealing with some bye week issues. Well, first of all, I have a couple of answers to this. The obvious one to me is Amari Cooper. He had an 80-yard touchdown call back last week. He hasn't seen less than 8 targets in a game this season. And I know this is going to make some people want to throw up in their mouths, but Deshaun Watson is playing better. He's playing better. Not great, but better. And the Commanders' defense has given up a touchdown to every team's wide receiver 1 this season. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison Jr. have all scored a touchdown against the Washington Commanders. So that's the obvious one. The less obvious one, if you're dealing with some bye week issues, is Jordan Whittington. The Packers rank number 24 against the pass and passing yards allowed per game. They've given up 30 points to opposing offenses twice already. Whittington's coming off a game where he had 8 targets. There's still no Puka. There's still no Cup. I say he scores a touchdown this week.
I like that call. I am flexing Jordan Whittington, so that gives me because of bye week, so that gives me a lot of confidence. Thank you for that. Really putting the needle or whatever. I don't know what I was trying to say there. Matt, who are you starting or sitting?
I am starting. I don't know if I wrote this down on the show sheet. I'm trying to look at the show sheet, but I have it in my head. It's Dontavian Wicks.
Nice.
Without Christian Watson on the field, Dontavian Wicks becomes immersed into this offense, and we saw what happened when the Packers were down big late. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before Matt LaFleur says, all right, look, when we throw to Jaden Reed and to Tucker Kraft and to Dontavian Wicks, our offense seems to be a lot better, and it seems to move a lot faster. And I wonder if we start consolidating that target share a little bit, especially with Christian Watson out with this high ankle sprain. I think there's still just a little bit of sunk cost fallacy with that organization. They really want him to work out, especially getting the hamstring figured out. But Dontavian Wicks just has that big playability. He has a great separation score. If you've seen his ass on fantasy points data, he's got a great ass. When he's on the field, he gets a good share of the first read targets. And so he's tethered to Jordan Love against a very sorry Rams defense that, let's be honest, one of the three of us could probably average, at least 5 yards per pass attempt on the Rams defense with the way this is going. If you give us a good enough offensive line, you give us Tyreek Hill, and give us some 10-step dropbacks.
You go ahead and try. You go ahead and I would like to see. Let's start a GoFundMe to try to make that happen. Like, let's see how much money we can raise for cancer or something to get Matt Babich on the field against the Rams. That'd be great.
I mean, hey, there's no Aaron Donald, so I'd at least be more willing to take the field.
Yeah,
If you put me
it's
against
great.
an Aaron Donald defense, you couldn't pay me enough money. I would probably donate my entire net worth to charity if it kept me on off of a field that Aaron Donald was on.
Yeah, you'd be dead. He would kill you. Like, and the courts would be like, "Hey, man, like you played football, so it's a tragedy, but the game goes on."
And then quickly another one I'm down to start is if Joe Flacco ends up playing this week, you start Josh Downs. Automatic, put him in your lineup.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
That's a good call for sure. And we'll use that as a quick segue into streamers. Jordan Whittington's been mentioned. Dontavian Wicks has been mentioned. Now we've got a little bit of Josh Downs, depending on your league size. Maybe Trey Sermon falls into this category. I'm seeing Justin Watson a lot in the chat. Give me a player that might be available on some of our listeners' waiver wire that they could probably put into their lineup this week, Seth.
Well, you need to pay attention to the injury news as it comes out, probably is on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. But if Devin Singletary can't go, Tyrone Tracy might be sitting out there for you on the waiver wire. And there's a chance, I don't know if it's been announced yet, but looks like Malik Neighbors is probably not going to play. So they're going to have to use every offensive weapon that they have. And we're going to see potentially if Tyrone Tracy can handle a full workload at the running back position, and especially targets out of the backfield in those PPR leagues. So I would be stashing him right now if you have the bench space, just in case, especially if you need a running back. I went ahead and added him in every league where he was available just to have him. Mm-hmm. Because I do think he was one of those players, if you remember us talking about him in Dynasty, that we were like, Thor Nystrom talked him up. Thor's super respected and like just a really good talent. So we'll see. I think he's worth a stash.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. I mean, that's wide receiver turned running back right there. You mentioned if Neighbors is out, someone has to catch passes. I saw a really funny tweet. Wando Robinson may have 35 receptions for 44 yards this week. It's pretty good. I think we could see something like that for sure without
PPR monster. Yeah.
I'm very excited to see how Daniel Jones looks this week, but I do like that Tyrone Tracy call. Matt, who's a available player that we should be go ahead and picking up just in case?
One of my favorite stashes is it was Roshan Johnson. Wasn't that a fun week?
It's still Roshan Johnson. He's still gonna get the goal. He's the new Mike Tolbert or whatever. Mike Tolbert is some who was the vulture, and anyway, it doesn't matter. But
TJ Hawkinson. I know you got to pay a little bit to get him. He's not someone who's on the waiver wire, but tight ends are so gross. And when TJ Hawkinson is ramped up to 100% a few weeks after coming back onto the field, like Seth and I joked about this on the Dynasty Roundtable, but like there's a possibility that TJ Hawkinson finishes as the overall tight end one in total fantasy points. Like that's where we're at. Like a couple of big weeks right off the bat for TJ, and he's probably top 5 like midway through the season. And so that's right there. And the tight end position is just so gross. And so even if it ends up being a bad call, like with the level of difference maker that TJ Hawkinson can be for your team, I believe he's the tight end 2 or 3 in fantasy points per game last year. In a year where tight ends were kind of exploding, and this is just the complete opposite this year. His performance last year would be far and wide the tight end one. And so you just don't really have an opportunity to get a player that can impact your fantasy team quite like TJ Hawkinson right now. I mean, Downs and Wicks, the 2 starts I just mentioned, are also people that are on waiver wires. My fiance's in a 14-team league in her work league, and she was like, I don't know who to start. It's actually a 15-team league. It's a really weird setup, but I know. But she was like, I don't know who to pick up at receiver. My receivers are trash. I was like, well, who's on the waiver wire? And she goes, D Wicks. And I was like, pick him up. Like, what are you doing? Get him right now. So I really do love those stashes as well. But like my favorite stash is just going out and getting Hawkinson wherever I can. I already have him, so I don't have to trade for him. But
yeah, I love that call. DJ Hawkinson, my second highest drafted tight end this year. So I really hope it does pan out. If he really does finish as a top 5 tight end despite missing so much of the season, that could be awesome. Now, we're about to move to the money moves portion of the show, and I actually saw a good trade question super chat. So shout out Zach L for this, throwing $5 our way to let us know if they should be trading away Jaden Reed for David Montgomery. They have Jahmyr Gibbs, so that maybe plays into it a little bit, but I would still say that is a no. Jaden Reed is playing way too well to trade him for a running back right now, especially one that is so dependent on touchdowns. But where are you feeling on this, Seth?
Yeah, as much as I like David Montgomery, Jaden Reed, you could get a lot more for him if you need a running back. And I don't know if this is a redraft question or a dynasty question, but it doesn't really matter to me. Like, yeah, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. Like, I'm sure you have other players on your roster, running backs, even that you could pick up on the waiver wire that could act as insurance. So if you want to trade Jaden Reed, I probably wouldn't do it right now, but you can get a heck of a lot more for him than just David Montgomery. So the short answer is no. I agree with you, Jason.
Matt, what are you thinking on this one?
Perfect lockstep with Seth here. I would stay put there.
Cool. All right, guys, if you had the opportunity to buy one player to put on your team, you were given a coupon, a check with no money on it, you get to write it. Who are you buying right now, Seth?
I know I might be stealing Matt's thunder, and my thunder was kind of stolen already, but I'm kicking the tires on Tyreek Hill. I'm seeing what is like in Dynasty and in redraft. I want Tyreek Hill because, like we mentioned before, Tua might be back in week 9 or 8 or whatever. But even if he isn't, I feel like this coaching staff, this organization, doesn't want this season to slip away from them. So don't be surprised if Tyler Huntley has another stinker of a game this week. I mean, it's possible he could be okay, but if there are some other quarterbacks out there, some backups like Jameis Winston, the Bears have one, and Tyson Bagent. It's not going to cost them a lot. Ryan Tannehill's still sitting out there, so it would not shock me if they make a move to bring in another quarterback. We shall see. But Tyreek Hill, is definitely somebody I'm kicking the tires on. Also, if this is a dynasty question, and I'll just throw this to you guys. I thought this was I couldn't believe it. It's one of those trades I couldn't accept fast enough. I just got Anthony Richardson in a super flex league for Travis Etienne and Bucky Irving. Anthony Richardson, I'm still a big believer, especially in a dynasty format. In redraft, if I picked him up off the waiver wire in redraft just to stash him, who knows? So those are a couple of names right there: Tyreek Hill, Anthony Richardson, especially in a super flex.
Yeah, I like those calls a lot. Even as a guy who is out on Tyreek Hill heading into the season, I do think that the market is trying to get right now. Again, it just takes one play for him. It literally just takes one play, and those types of players are just so hard to get in general. Matt, what are you thinking right now? Who are you trying to buy?
Yeah, it's funny. So Seth goes Tyreek, I go Waddle.
There you go.
Mostly because I think the market has he's been impacted more by the market recently. I think there's still more of a sense of belief that Tyreek Hill can kind of get it done with anybody. So if there's a bad situation there, even if it's Tyler Huntley for the rest of the year, I still don't think in redraft especially and in dynasty, based on Seth and I's rankings, neither of us are really buying Tyreek Hill in dynasty. But I think both of those players end up being good throughout the rest of the year. I think Waddle being a wide receiver 45 rest of season is you could really trade almost anybody. If you have an RB needy team, before Sunday, I bet you could get Justice Hill for Jalen Waddle done as a trade. That sounds like something that could potentially happen. Maybe a fading running back like Zach Moss you can get rid of for a guy like Jalen Waddle. I really think that the Dolphins turn it around. I mean, from all reports, that Tua is going to come back, so we should be treating the Dolphin situation like Tua is going to come back right now. And if he doesn't, we should prepare for at least some better quarterback play, because at this point, Mike McDaniel can't keep doing what's happening here and keep his job for very longer because he looks lost whenever Tua is not on the field, and that's not a coach that keeps his job after 3 or 4 years.
That's fair. That's fair. So buy your Miami Dolphins. Seth, who are you selling right now?
I know that Jordan Addison hysteria's. I mean, it's picking up. He caught 2 touchdowns, but that was only on 4 targets in his first, like, I would say, official game back. And you have to remember, like, Justin Jefferson's in this offense. Also, Aaron Jones is in this offense. We talked about T.J. Hawkinson's going to be back at some point. So there's a very real possibility that Jordan Addison is the third receiving option in this offense. And I'm not quite sure that Sam Darnold can support 3 wide receiving options that for a long stretch of time. So as good as Jordan Addison is, I'm probably selling high right now to see what I can get, or at least putting him on the trade block because, like I said, it's just a matter of time before that TJ Hawkinson return is coming, and I just don't know if there's enough room for everybody, and I think Jordan Addison in the long term is likely the odd man out.
Yeah, I'm with you there for sure. I think especially at the wide receiver, we have what we like to call the super tier of wide receivers, and Jordan Addison is just right at the top of that. If you could tier down from him for someone else just with similar upside or similar floor, I think that you're doing dynasty right. Imagine like a Tank Dell plus trade right now. Like I think that's a really fun exhibit.
That's perfect. Like
right?
Tank Dell is a screaming buy right now. Like you could get potentially like an extra pick or a nice player on top of that too. So
yeah,
that's a great move.
There's a lot of great options out there. JMO plus, like there's a lot of fun ones out there for Jordan Addison. Matt, who are you trying to sell right now?
Oh, it pains me to say this.
Uh-oh.
I really love this player. I hate the situation he's in, and it seems like this offense is going to operate like this for the rest of the season. And I couldn't want to get Zay Flowers off of my teams fast enough. Had a good showing in weeks 1 and 2. Was a target leader for this team. The issue is it's so hard to take zeros or near zeros in fantasy football and consistently win. And that's what Zay Flowers may be giving you in any game where the Ravens have a lead and are running the ball. So let's work backwards, right? So we have Buffalo, 2 targets, 12 routes, 67% snap share. That's pretty close to a career low for him, like back to when he was getting onboarded as a rookie last season.
Mm-hmm.
The week before against Dallas, a tighter game for the most part, but it wasn't really. And Dallas is just a laughable rushing defense. 4 targets, 20 yards receiving, 16 routes. And you know what's crazy about those 16 routes, you guys? That was a 100% route participation. He ran every route in that game. And it's 16. His targets per route run is looking good, at 25% for that game. But, I mean, the lows are so low, and the highs haven't been the highest. I mean, against the Las Vegas Raiders, 90 yards and a touchdown on 7 receptions. That's good for 22 fantasy points, wide receiver 11 on the week. That's his high. Mm-hmm. He's scored above 10 fantasy points twice, over 15 fantasy points once. And you look throughout the schedule and you see a lot of games where the Ravens should be winning and having a more run-heavy script. It's just going to be so frustrating to play him. I think this in a tight matchup could be a week where Zay Flowers comes to life against Cincinnati, and then I'm looking to move him for whatever I can get, someone who's going to be more consistent throughout the season, someone who I can be happy about playing in my fantasy playoffs instead of being fearful of what's this Ravens game gonna be like. Is Zay even going to be involved?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, really. Seth can tell you, at the Kansas City Draft House, heading into the draft, Zay Flowers was listed as my guy on the website, on PlayerProfiler on the staff page, because I liked Zay Flowers as a prospect. And immediately when he got drafted from the Ravens, I looked at Seth and I said, can we please take him off my page? I do not want him anymore as my guy. I don't like the fit for him. I got a lot of hate last year. I said he's basically Wan'Dale Robinson on the Ravens. And I feel so great about that take. Like, we're watching it unfold. Like, there's just not enough pass volume in Baltimore to sustain him. I do still think he'll have some weeks. I won't lie. I'm throwing seconds Zay Flowers' way. But that is a testament to why you should probably be selling him, because I can't even really get him for that. People still want a bit more, but I think you can get it from others. But I think that's a good one. Another tier down candidate, just right at that. Like, he was right next to Jordan Addison, and those really both of those players, I think, a little too high for what their value or their production suggests. Now, before we get into the hot takes, we got one more super chat from Chunk. He's been offered Joe Mixon, Ferguson, and Jamar Chase for Devon Achane, Dalton Kincaid, and Chris Godwin. This is a full PPR league. I'm going to go ahead and put a dynasty lens on this. I don't know if that's the case. And this is a very hard trade to break down. I don't like the 3x3, to be honest with you. I think I'm leaning the Jamar Chase side, to be honest. I think that Ferguson's close enough to Kincaid. I think that Jamar Chase way outperforms Godwin in terms of dynasty value. And Joe Mixon versus Achane. Achane obviously more than Mixon, but Mixon, I think when he returns, can be fairly productive. It's where you're not missing too much over the season. And I just like getting Jamar Chase on my dynasty teams. What can I say? But it's a tough trade. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Okay, it's actually redraft, so that probably puts me on the Achane, Kincaid, Godwin side for sure in redraft. I'm assuming you guys probably on the same boat then.
Yeah, I'm on the Godwin. Looks like, Evans got the touchdowns last night, but Godwin looks like he's going to be amazing the rest of the season. I think Kincaid's going to be better, and I think Achane's going to be better too.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and we're with flexes too. Like, if you're getting Achane with Gibbs and Brees already, like, I don't think that's any reason for you not to do that trade. I think the value on the first part of that is better. So if that's the side you're getting, even if you have Gibbs and Brees, I'm doing that.
Yeah, cool. So then we are lockstep there, guys. We have made it to the end of the show. It's been awesome chopping it up with you guys. Let's end it on an even higher note. Give me your hot take for rest of season, Seth.
I still think DJ. I still believe in DJ Moore. I still believe in the Bears offense. I'm gonna go full homer, like I always do, and I know what that, I know that means for some people, but I think they're gonna get it figured out. I think Caleb Williams has gotten better every week. I know we're fighting the Jaden Daniels instant gratification success society that we're in, but I do think Caleb Williams has gotten better every week, and I think this offense is eventually going to figure it out, especially, like I mentioned earlier in the show, as they enter into shootouts against the Vikings, against the Packers, where they're going to be in trail mode, against the Lions, a team they should have beat twice last year, and they're better this year. So I think DJ Moore still has a shot at finishing as a top 16, top 15 wide receiver, kind of like you drafted him to be. So I'm buying him right now, basically anywhere I can, because, I'm a sycophant for the Bears. So, but I've broken down the all 22 tapes, so I believe.
There you go. DJ Moore still a top 15 wide receiver rest of season. Matt, what's your hot take?
I'm kind of battling between two. I wasn't going to go with it, but Charlie Gehrig in the chat is bringing it up. So I'm sorry. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you two quick ones. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a league winner. Okay. Atlanta, Buffalo, LA Rams to close out the season. You see him getting more involved in the pass offense, see him getting good quality routes. Those are going to be some high scoring games against teams that maybe not the Rams are going to be competitive late on in the season. So I think he's going to break out and be a league winner. And then Mark Andrews, I bet I'm calling it, finishes as the top 10 tight end 1, if we want to go 12 in fantasy points per game. Is that saying much? No, I don't think so. I think it's more saying that I think the tight ends continue to be pretty bad in fantasy. Yeah. But I think Mark Andrews is coming off of a surgery, is coming off of a car crash, and has been in some weird game scripts where no one's running routes. I think at some point the tables turn and Mark Andrews becomes more involved again. I think the team is playing this internally and making it seem like Mark Andrews is washed as a little bit of a ploy.
I'm with you. I think Mark Andrews turns it around too. I think that's a great take. I like all of your Seth. I'm with you on DJ Moore. I'm with you on Mark Andrews. I'm with you on JSN too. The Rams will probably be competitive end of year when he is playing them. Cup and Puka should hopefully be healthy.
Yeah.
right?
They beat the 49ers, right? They can
Yeah.
beat anybody if they can beat the 49ers.
That's true. That's true. Well, the 49ers seem to be having their own issues right now. But
Yeah.
those are some awesome takes. Mark Andrews, top 10 in points per game by the end of the year. That's going to be tomorrow's quote graphic on Twitter for sure. It's going to be a fun one. Now, guys, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you. I'll throw it to you, Matt, first. Thank you for taking some time out of your workday to get on here in your office. Where can the people find you? Where can they follow you? All that great stuff.
Of course. So you can follow me on Twitter at Babich_Matt10. I got a lot of usually making fun of my own takes is primarily why I'm there. For most of my fantasy football related content, you can find me at playerprofiler.com/articles. Start sit every week, and the weather report on Sundays as well. And then you can find Seth and I over on Seth's YouTube channel, which he'll plug, for the Dynasty Roundtable weekly on Wednesdays. And we're doing a show on Tuesdays as well. Wednesdays is 7 p.m. live. Tuesdays is generally a pre-recorded episode. And then, Twitter, if you're a hockey sycophant like I am, regular season starts today. Regular season starts in 2 hours. We got a Prague game, Devils and Sabres. So I'm just going to plug, if you're bored at work, if you're bored at home today, figure out a way to stream the first NHL regular season game of the year. 2 high-powered offenses in Buffalo and New Jersey going up against each other. I'm expecting a really good game in their international series to kick off the NHL season. So hockey's back as well.
Hockey, let's go.
Hockey corner with Matt Babich, to end the show.
Seth, where can the people find you, man, and all your great work?
Yeah, first of all, you go check out the articles. I'm the lead editor at Player Profiler, and these guys do such a good job writing weekly articles. Matt Babich writes a start sit. I do a Dynasty column every week by sells or ups, downs. Chris O'Brien, if you're not following him on Twitter, he writes for Player Profiler. Mm-hmm. So you should go follow him on Twitter and read his articles every week. There's too many. DT has got a bi-weekly article that comes out at DT Foldiori. Too many people to mention. I'm going to miss some names, but go check out the articles, playerprofiler.com/fantasy, and then scroll down to the articles. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth_DIEWOLD, Diewold, not Dieworld on Twitter. That should be my new handle, Diewold, not Dieworld, at Diewold, not Dieworld. Anyway, maybe. We'll think about it. We'll workshop it. And then, of course, my YouTube channel where Matt and I do content. But also, go follow the Dynasty Roundtable YouTube channel at FF Dynasty or Dynasty Roundtable on YouTube, but also my YouTube channel as well. Tons of content. We plan on doing big plans coming. So just follow it, subscribe, be tapped in, because we're real excited for what we got cooking.
For sure. Cannot recommend following these guys enough. Seth, you're still doing the daily thread, right, on Twitter?
Mostly daily. Mostly daily. It's daily? Like that. I should put that in my bio. I should put that out. Mostly daily, doing a thread. Mostly, every half 75% of the time it works every time. So there you go.
Awesome stuff, guys. Cannot recommend following these fellas enough. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a very fun episode. Can't wait to have you guys back on again. Can't wait to maybe go back onto the roundtable sometime soon. You guys, the audience, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. You all have a fantastic Friday, a wonderful weekend. Good luck in all your Week 5 matchups, and I will see you Monday. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.